Welcome to Between the Bars. A few months ago, I had the chance to sit down with Zach Britt and Zach Bayard of Supertaste, a Brooklyn-based band shortly after they wrapped up their first ever U.S. tour playing 32 cities across the country. We had the chance to talk about everything the experience taught them, from the personal growth that came with the life on the road to the new perspectives they gained on why making music matters and how touring helped shape their sense of purpose as artists. Here is our conversation. I'm here with Zach and Zach from Supertaste. I just want to know, how are you guys feeling post tour?
Just generally, emotionally, physically, well-being, general. I feel like I'm finally getting over the exhaustion and kind of diving through some other aspects of recovering from 2 months on the road. But like generally speaking, I think we're all feeling really good proof of concept and like proof to ourselves that we can do this thing that we've like always dreamt of doing. So feeling really, really good. And yeah, living with the experience that we have now of like of connecting with these people all over the country is going to be something that we just have forever. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask kind of what your recovery process has looked like a bit, but it seems like you guys are just diving right back in by releasing a single pretty much right away. So when you got back, were you immediately like, we've got to keep this momentum going?
yeah, I mean, I think that we kind of like planned the release date of the single based on when we were going to get back, knowing that we were going to be like really cranking out, trying to gain traction and cranking out content and like really trying to grow a lot on socials over the course of tour and connect with a lot of people in person over tour. So it felt like it was going to be a really good time to try to capitalize on, um, the momentum that we had.
Yeah. So I want to dive more into your tour experience and also, your new single and everything, but I want to go back in time a little bit, get the origin story of Supertaste. You guys are a Brooklyn-based band, but did you guys grow up in Brooklyn? Where are you guys from?
We're both from North Carolina, so we're from the same hometown. So I guess in like 2016, 2015, I worked with Lucas, um, in Brooklyn. I've been here for about 10 years. Zach's been here for about what, 7, 8 years.
7, 8 years, yeah.
Wow, actually 11 years in August. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, so Lucas and I used to work together, and then I used to throw these like monthly showcases, and we had Lucas DJ one, and I was DJing the same one, and we started doing some like back-to-back DJ sets. We just realized like stylistically our music was very similar, so we DJed together for like 2 or 3 years before even writing music together. And then we started messing around writing. That was kind of at the beginning of COVID. And at that time it was just the two of us. So the first few releases are just kind of Lucas and I trying to figure out what this project was. And then once COVID was over and we started like, diving more into live performances. What? I'm describing. Once COVID was over and we kind of started diving back into or more into live shows for the first time, it was very clear that just the two of us didn't really make a lot of sense for like a band. Zach and I were living together at the time.
We still are living together.
We still,
Nice.
and Zach's a phenomenal keys player, so it just kind of like that progression just made a lot of sense to have Zach on the team, and we started playing live together, and then Zach started writing with us, and um, he wrote, I guess the first album that you were kind of all over was um the last Supernova.
Yeah.
And then obviously we in the last year have now added Gavin playing drums with us live. So that's been the whole progression, I think. Uh skipping over some obviously more granular things, but yeah, that was the general trajectory.
Yeah, and it was fun. Like because Zach and I lived together, I would always see like Lucas and Zach working on music together. Like this was like pre my time.
Uh-huh.
And I really believed in what they were doing, and just like thought everything that they were creating was like so cool, and I never wanted to like cramp their style, but it was just like, guys, if y'all ever need a keyboard for shows, like I'm your guy, just let me know. And then yeah, played my first show with them. I think this was in like 2022 or 2023, and since then it's just like slowly evolved into what it is now.
So, do you guys also plan to keep Gavin for future kind of live shows on drums?
100%, yeah.
100. Yeah, I mean, he was fantastic.
It's the goal for sure. Yeah, Gavin has quickly become the heartbeat of our live performance.
It's kind of hilarious. After, especially on tour, after we would play our set, so many people would come up to us after the show, and it was like, y'all were great, but all the like Gavin, and just like how incredible he was, and he had the most fans out of
It's crazy. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
He was super locked in. You could just see it. He was really locked in. I mean, you guys were all locked in, but I feel like you guys would sort of, vibe with each other on stage a bit, and he was all business, getting the job done.
Gavin, that is not specific to his drumming. I think Gavin is one of the most locked in human beings I've ever met in my life. Or stuff. I'm just locked in everywhere all the time.
Yeah. Well, so I do want to dig into your tour experience a bit more, but I also am curious, you both grew up in North Carolina. How how do you think the music that you grew up around in North Carolina influenced your current music taste, or did it not at all?
Huh. I think that's a great question. I think for me, like everybody has a different like way they interface with music. For me, it's always been just like a lot of fun. Um, and the music that I grew up listening to and enjoyed in more of my formative years was always things that just like really hyped me up and made me feel like I was having fun. Like I never really listened a ton to like sad emotional music. It was always just like a silly fun thing for me. Um, so I think coming to New York, I was exposed to a lot more of like the dance scene and the house music scene. And when I would, work in the studio by myself, like making things on my own, it was always around this idea of just like fun and silly. And I think with Supertaste, the we're definitely in that like dance direction, and that is just like fun. It's like that's always been my relationship with music. It's just like a silly fun time. It makes me feel like a kid, um, and that's the experience that I feel most whole in, is when we're either playing a show or we're writing a song in the studio, and I'm like writing a riff or whatever it is. Like I feel the best whenever I feel like a kid. I'm just like, oh my God, I just had a nice, silly, fun time, and I feel like a 7-year-old, and this is great. So that is definitely like my relation to music. I feel like Zach is probably would have a different answer though. Let's see.
I grew up listening to a lot of like Americana and folk rock and even a lot of bluegrass. I definitely grew up being very inspired by songwriters. I mean, I remember being in like fifth grade, and I remember being in fifth grade and listening to this song by Eminem and like want to know all of the lyrics to the song, and I like printed it out. And my mom found the printout lyrics in my pocket and got so pissed at me. Um, because I
That's
was
pretty young for Eminem.
yeah, no,
Fifth grade, fifth grade.
but like even so, it was just like I don't know. I think that I've always loved like reading lyrics as poetry, and I think um that has definitely informed my songwriting as an adult. But I also like, I mean, I think some of my favorite experiences in life in general have been being completely enveloped by an artist or a band or a DJ or any performer on stage, and just kind of like losing myself in the present moment, similar to what Zach was saying. So I think that, you know, that the practice of writing music with the intention of it being experienced live and being felt in a very deep way, I think has always sat with me.
Are there any shows or, live performances that you can think back to now that kind of made you have that feeling of losing yourself or being completely engulfed in?
Yeah, when I was in 7th grade, I saw the Ava brothers. So the Ava brothers are from like an hour from my hometown. They're like folk rock Americana band. Definitely changed a lot from that point in time, but back then they were this just like kind of like punk folk rock band. And I saw them at a free show when I was in 7th grade in my hometown, in downtown, outside. And it was packed, and the amount of energy that they exerted from stage, I remember being just like awestruck. Like I remember thinking, I've never seen someone sweat from their kneecaps before. And that, like, I remember exactly what that looked like. I saw them like, I, f- I followed them around all through like middle school and high school with my friend's mom, and then with my friends in high school and then my friends in college, and just saw them so many times. But that was like seeing that show. I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that one more.
Cool. Zach, other Zach, do you have any shows that you can think back to that kind of give you that same feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been so many over the years of just being. I mean, I feel like I feel that way at every single concert I ever go to. Especially when I was growing up, like in college and high school. Like literally any single show I went to, it, the way it was always just like, I want to do that, like it was just always such a powerful thing. I feel like when you're going to shows, especially at like a younger age, when you're less in touch with the world, like it just feels like such a magical thing. It definitely is, but like, especially when you're young. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's really tough to say on like one specific show for me, but like every single show I go to, even still to this day, like I was at a show on Saturday and just watching the band play. I'm like, I can't wait to be up on stage and do this again.
Yeah.
It's like most fun thing.
You sort of earlier described the sound of Supertaste as dance music. Is that how you would describe your sound?
I mean, I think that often, yeah. I mean, there's definitely some exceptions, and
For sure.
there's some things that lean more, a little less dance and maybe a little more rock or a little more like even like neo soul or like, a little. All of our live shows are definitely dance oriented, but we definitely write some things that are a little more smooth or soft.
Yeah, I was just curious because kind of having a more Americana folk rock background, at what point did you start getting into the more maybe, disco-esque funk dance type of sound?
I think for me it was when I came to New York was
Yeah.
when I really got a big healthy exposure to like dance music and just like that scene and culture. Um, there's it's just insane going from like I grew up in North Carolina, so it's like it was just a lot of like country music and top 40 stuff and I started getting into like dubstep when like Skrillex went viral or like got super mainstream in high school, and that like kind of started my electronic journey. And when I got to New York, it was just like house music and disco, and obviously I moved straight in with Zach, and he had more years of experience under his belt, so he showed me so many things. I remember one of the first weekends after I moved to New York, he took me to like Fisher and Chris Lake at the Brooklyn Mirage, and we were like backstage for it. It was like my first weekend in New York, and it was just like one of the craziest things I had.
Yeah.
Um, you just like connect to that whole energy and environment, and it's like trying to recreate it in our own like in our own way. Supertaste. Because yeah, I think my time in New York, it's like that's when I've experienced just like the most like bliss and like fun state is when we're like out dancing, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
There's ever
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I used to work in so I was working at a booking agency, so we both used to work
Oh.
in music booking, and a lot of the clients that I worked on were kind of heavy hitter DJ acts. So a lot of the first like 5 years of my New York time was spent very late nights at very dark clubs. So with
Yeah.
but yeah, to answer the where did that changeover happen? I mean, I think that like even in college, I was going to, every year I was going to Merle Fest. That's like bluegrass, jazz, not even necessarily jazz, bluegrass, folk, Americana, even country bands, like very family oriented in the mountains of North Carolina. And then like I was also going to like Counterpoint and Bonnaroo and seeing, Avicii and Pretty Lights and like the I think the thing that I fell in love with was like I could go to a bluegrass show and dance my fucking ass off, and I could go to an Avicii show and dance my fucking ass off, and like they both, I wouldn't say drew me in the same way, but like for similar reasons, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That energy that comes from live shows in general, really.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. It's a collective human experience where like you're getting to do this thing in like a sea of people and like you're all having separate experiences, but you're all like reacting to the same thing, and the thing's purpose and goal is to make you feel something, which is really cool.
Yeah. So at what point did you guys start? I know you started out DJing and then deciding, okay, we want to be, like an instrumental band that's playing live shows. Was that prior to coming out with Supernova or after that?
I think from the jump, the idea was to not just be doing DJ sets. We were always releasing music with vocals over top, and the goal was always to make it feel as live as possible. Obviously, there are severe restrictions when it's just two people. So I think having the addition of Zach and then now having the addition of Gavin has just made it, it actually feels like what we have always imagined it feeling like, which is like a band. I think that there are definitely dreams to like, it'd be so sick to have strings players, it'd be sick to have some horns, it'd be awesome to have backup vocals, some more percussion. I think that all those things would be really, really beautiful to add at some point, but right now it feels really good to have our like core floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that your relationship with music has changed after experiencing playing live as a band?
I think, I don't know, for me, my relationship with music, it's tough to uh tie that just from playing live with us. Um, but I think especially getting an experience like tour under our belt, I think that's been one of the fun things to kind of reflect on with like how it's kind of shifted the way I look at the experience of performing. So, in the past, like I think the last year has been pretty big for us with just like the shows that we've been able to play and some of the stages we've been able to get up on and do our thing and a lot of that was like just so surreal and like a dream come true. And I would say the same thing for tour as well. Like it was very surreal and a dream come true for us. But the difference was we were able to get so many reps of it in and like night after night kind of look at the holistic view of like what is performing and what does this all mean. And I think that has shifted where before it was like, oh, this is my dream come true. This is amazing. I get to like play on these stages and play in front of these big crowds and do the whole thing to like, well, what is the intention with that? And I think the biggest takeaway for tour with me was like we wanted to provide this experience for everybody and just bring them happiness and bring them joy. And like, that was kind of the thing where I was like, oh, that's what this is about. It's like, it's about the experience, it's about the music. And like, we're on a mission to like do that for everyone who's there and give them the best experience we possibly can, to where they can just like feel joy. I think early on in the tour, Gavin was like, he coined this term, like we're the soldiers of joy. And that like became the mantra of the whole tour. Where like, if we were feeling down, if we were having a tough day, it was like, well, we're soldiers of joy. We have an obligation. We have to go like do this thing. And like, I feel like that's how I want to continue performing, just like moving forward, is like, it's not about me. It's not about like us. It's about everyone who's there. It's about creating joy. I feel like that's what the world needs the most of. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think I second that, kind of how, music is a vessel to carry out a mission. And I think that as we, after seeing how things affect people from stage and hearing how things affect people as we're talking to them after the fact, I mean, that inevitably carries over into like our writing process and carries over into our new music creation. But I think also, yeah, I mean, I think it definitely can recontextualize, songs we put out 4 years ago. Just seeing how things can, I guess that has been an interesting experience, is watching a room full of people who's never even heard of us before experiencing something that like we've had years of experience with, like a song that was, off our second EP or even our first EP, and watching I guess it reemphasizes this truth that like once you release a song into the world, it like no longer belongs to you. It's just um it belongs to anyone who who listens to it or who interacts with it or experiences it in some way. So I think that was very much solidified on tour.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also one of those things where, you could go into your show and not know any of the music or any of the songs, but you're gonna end up dancing by the end because it's fun music. It's hard to just be dead in the crowd even if you don't know any of the words, even if you don't know the music, because it's fun music. It's fun music to dance to. And I think it's interesting that it has that ability that, from the beginning to the end of the set, someone could walk in and have no idea who you guys are, and then by the end be like, wow, that was so good. There were so many great songs in there, which is really powerful. And I also love that you describe yourselves as soldiers of joy. I think that's really cool. And I also think it's interesting to talk about that shift of going from, wow, this is a dream come true. I can't believe we're touring, to, okay, maybe this is a little bit bigger than us. What does it all mean? And do you think that there was a moment during tour where that maybe hit you harder, or that you felt that impact, or was it just over time reflecting night after night?
No, I mean, very vividly remember.
Oh, Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah, Boston for sure.
Yeah, the day that we played Boston was the day that ICE shot Alex Peretti in Minneapolis. And I think that it was like there was almost this guilt of like, well, what the fuck are we doing? What is even this? Like obviously this is a dream that we've had for our entire lives, and it's like it felt like what is the purpose of this if the only purpose is fulfilling this dream that we have? I'm not saying that like in dreams and fulfilling those dreams isn't important. I think it is important, but um in the context of like a world on fire, what is the point of this? And I remember just I think we all each took turns just sitting in this dark cloud on that van ride from New York to Boston that day, like, and it almost felt, I mean, it was completely overwhelming. And then we got there and had this realization, like, we do have to show up. We have to show up for ourselves, and we have to show up for each other, and we have to show up for the people that are still coming out to see this show. And this is what, if we can provide some sense of relief or hope or joy, just as an act of resistance, even, then I think that it's all worth it. And especially being in a physical space with a group of people when, like, I don't know, right? Everything feels scary, and I think that everything's like being presented to us as being scary to try to make us afraid of each other and afraid of being out in the world around us and experiencing the world around us. And I think that if we can create these spaces where people feel safe to come and, like, you know, and smile and dance next to some stranger, and we're all collectively moving together, it's this beautiful counterpoint to everything that we're being force fed, uh, which is fear and yeah, I don't know. I think Boston was the one. That was definitely the one.
Yeah, that sounds like it was an incredibly profound moment for you guys. And also, I think speaks to how reflective you guys are as people, and introspective to be able to, realize what's going on around you and then continue on this mission of, well, we're going to provide joy for other people. And I think, you guys talked about having moments of being able to lose yourself in crowds at other people's shows. And now you're kind of providing this opportunity for other people to get to lose themselves in a crowd at one of your shows and hear your music, and that provide some sort of escapism for them. Yeah, you guys should feel pretty good about that.
Thank you. I think I've said escapism a lot, and thinking that that is what we were hoping to provide, but then I think that also kind of shifted that night, and, like, honest, where it's like it's less of I don't know, it feels like a little more intentional than that now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which has also been an interesting shift because
It's like safety, it's like,
Yeah.
other than escapism, it's like genuine safety. And it's like,
True.
trying to provide an environment where, going off what Zach was saying, like, people truly at their core feel comfortable enough to have a huge smile on their face and dance and make friends with a bunch of strangers around them. And just like, I think that's maybe kind of what you're trying to say. But yeah, it starts with this like dream moment, and that's great. But then you get to think like, okay, well, then what? Like, what comes after the dream? Or how can you make like a positive impact? How can you do something that's like genuinely good for the world? Um, and yeah, like in Boston, there was that weird guilt, and just being on tour in general, like there was this guilt that came with it of like so many negative things happening in the world all the time. And every single day was just dark, and people were down. And then we had this opportunity to go do this just like incredible thing of like, oh my God, like this is amazing, but also like the world sucks right now. And like everyone's having a tough time except us. We're like, we're going to have the best time ever. Oh my God. So there was like this crazy guilt thing. So it's like, how can we morph that into like actually something productive and not feel that guilt?
So how did you feel by the end of that show in Boston? Did you feel better about that guilt, or what did that feel like at the end of that show?
I mean, I think the show in Boston should recontextualize what we were doing for me. And I mean, yeah, I think we kind of like had an opportunity to like to say some words that maybe we were more hesitant to say before that night, but then and seeing the crowd kind of like collectively react and respond to that felt really good. And I think that, yeah, it was less guilt and more like, okay, we have this mission, like we have a mission that we have to carry out now.
Yeah. And it was furthermore like solidified, 2 weeks later when we were in Minneapolis. And it was like, coming back to Minneapolis, like there was something in the air there, and there was still a ton of ice raids happening, and it was like just a very intense energy to come into, and I remember feeling that heaviness on stage that night and just like being a little overwhelmed on stage. Um, and it was intense. I remember that show being very intense for me to like get through and get to the other side of it. And after the show, we had so many people come up to us and just say like, this is exactly what our community needs right now is experiences like this. And like, we need this. Thank you so much. And they were just so grateful that we were there to do that. And that's when it was like, oh wow, this is bigger than us. This is a really fulfilling experience that we have the opportunity and
Privilege.
yeah, like privilege to share with people all over the place.
I remember someone coming up after the show and saying like, this is the first night I've had out in months, and this is the first night I've not felt like underwater. And how important that felt to me in that moment, and important that felt. Yeah, it just reemphasized everything. Yeah.
It sounds like it was a really special experience, and also sort of a maybe life-changing experience to have that happening and change your entire purpose of being a part of music in real time, which is pretty crazy to have that experience on your first tour, I think.
It's a crazy time to be on tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
I agree. I mean, it's a fortunate thing to come to have to reckon with within the first few weeks of tour, I think. But also, we're silly dudes. Like, my favorite form of existence is like belly laughing at some dumb shit that Lucas says. I think we also just try to generally carry that onto stage with us. Yeah, we want people to feel like we're all doing this thing together,
Yeah. Do you think that your relationship with each other really kind of strengthened while you were on tour?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like always with each other, and
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway in like with that question specifically is like we just have this really cool shared experience. So like I know just being in the room with Zach, it's like just that acknowledgement of like we did that together, and it's like as simple as that no one else is gonna have that type of thing that we shared, and I feel like that gives a really nice, definitely closeness with everyone, and same with Gavin. Like every time I see Gavin, I mean, it's always just so amazing to see Gavin, but it's like, I just know I'm closer with him now, so yeah. And the dynamics were great, we never really butt heads. Nothing got dramatic. Everybody was having the time of their life, and we took it very seriously, like we were very intentional with it. And yeah, like it couldn't have gone smoother in terms of like dynamics between all of us.
We also, our driver for the duration of tour was my little brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He quit his job and came out, and
Wow.
I mean, he had never been a tour manager or anything before, so he kind of dipped his toes in and made sure we got to our next place safely. Because I mean, 3 of the 4 of us were still working full-time jobs, so like we had a Starlink set up in the front of the car, and we were having to like work while Max was driving.
Wow.
Thank God for Max. But yeah, I mean, I think we all like, you definitely learn a lot about a person by spending virtually every waking moment within like a 5-foot radius of them for 2 months straight. I would say we definitely got closer through that. Just point blank, but yeah.
Do you think that you guys being so close as friends has also made you guys have like it's interesting that you have both this closeness as of friends and then also this chemistry on stage with each other, just to have that musical connection that you play well together. I think that's a very unique thing that a lot of people probably go their whole life to find. And like, do you think that being such good friends has also made you have sort of this unspoken understanding with each other on stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, there are some acts that you go see and it's this sexy front man or sexy front woman and it's like spotlights on them and everyone else is kind of like here to support this thing happening in the front. And then I think that there are shows you go to where it's just like you can go watch a band and it's just like this band all hates each other. And it's so obvious. And then there's shows you go to where you're like, this is a group of best friends that's like they're sharing this thing on stage and like I can feel energy from them out in the crowd. And I think that that is absolutely what we are trying to emulate.
We are,
Yeah.
I think that's just the reality of it is like, we've all been wanting to do this stuff since we were all kids, and now we're all like 30 and it's just cool because, it didn't happen when we were in our early mid 20s. Like it will happen for a lot of people, and now that we're here, it's like, let's do this, let's enjoy it and have as much fun as possible. And just like tap into that silliness on stage. I think that's definitely a big thing of our performances is obviously the music, but just being silly and having a fun time on stage and playing around. It just keeps things light.
Yeah. You could definitely feel that. I think you could tell from an audience perspective that you guys are good friends and genuinely like each other, which I think really helps play into the whole energy and feeling of a show, is if there's just all around good vibes coming from you guys amongst each other. So the last question I want to ask you about, which is totally unrelated, but I have to ask you. So the Parcels did a show in Queens at what's that venue? Forest Hills. And they did a Lot Radio set, like I think around that time. And then Toto also did a Lot Radio set. And at the end, you can see that there's a little hand that slides through and he picks up an album and puts it down and you can see that it's Supernova. So I just had to ask you guys about that. Was that one of you guys?
So that was it was definitely a collaborative effort. I think Zach was out of town that day, and I don't remember exactly how I unearthed that Toto was doing a lot radio set, but one thing led to the other, and I was just like, oh wow, he is doing the lot, and I like turned it on the TV. I was watching it for a moment, and I was like, I'm gonna go and just like go hang out and post up there. And when I was biking over, that's when I had the idea to pass off a vinyl. And so I called Lucas and was just like, he had all the vinyls at his apartment. I was like, yo, come to the lot right now. Anatoly's playing. He has like 20 minutes left of his set. Like, just get here and bring one of the vinyls and let's like write a little note for him and share it over. And yeah, that was pretty much it, but it was just cool because, Parcels is definitely just, I think, one of the most impactful bands that I've experienced in the last decade of my life. And I just have so much love for their energy and the music that they do and all of it. It's just very inspiring. And obviously I think that's someone that we've looked up to with Supertaste and yeah, just having that opportunity. It's like, you got to shoot your shot, a vinyl and who knows what can happen. And maybe he threw it away. Maybe he listened to it. Who knows? But, yeah, I think you just got to go for it when it makes sense.
I was out of town.
Huh?
I was at Halloween in Florida, festival in Florida, and had been front row seeing Parcels the night before at Halloween.
Wow.
And then, so, oh yeah, I was front row with a group of like 30 friends, and then I guess they all flew their different ways the next day, and Toto flew to New York and did a lot of radio set, which is just
Yeah. So yeah, I just had to ask about that because I thought it was so funny to be watching that set and then actually see your guys' album in the background. I was like, that's awesome. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for doing this. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate how open you guys were. And I'm excited to hear more music from you guys soon. So
There will be plenty of that.
There will be much of that.
Yeah, we've got, I mean, you heard it here first, but we've got an album that we're finishing up to come out later this year.
you heard it here first. New album on the way. That's awesome.